Where goes one? Asking us, will Ohio State's class of 2024 be one of the largest Ohio-based player classes in a while? Hearing good things, good players coming out of Ohio.
All right, I'll go again. I guess I'm kind of our designated big picture recruiting guy. Yeah, 24 is shaping up to be a really solid year in the state of Ohio in terms of the talent that's produced. Ohio State is always going to get its top end kids out of the state of Ohio. I think one of the differences that we see now in Ohio versus even just during the Jim Tressel era, which let's remember is not exactly yesterday. I mean, there's some time that has happened between those two things. Is it's not a matter of who 1 through 4 in the state of Ohio were. It was a matter of who 5 through 12 were. And as 5 through 12 maybe got a little bit lower and lower and lower of being the kids you need to be able to compete for national championships and things along those lines, Ohio State certainly had to cast a wider net. We're very quick to point out, well, Urban Meyer completely, changed the strategy. And yes, he did. But I think some of that was predicated on the fact that Ohio was not producing as much talent, and you had to go out of state to find certain positions. But you sit there and you look at 24, you look at cornerbacks like Aaron Scott, and you look at Bryce West, and you look at what's coming out of the state in terms of Glenville, as I mentioned. Bryce West has got guys again. You've got a lot more players that are emerging at this point. I mean, Ohio State just offered a 25 running back within the last 15 minutes with Marquise Davis. I mean, a 25. And we talk about how you have to be damn sure if you're going to offer an in-state kid that you better be ready to take them. And if they're already ready with this 25 kid, I'm not saying that there's going to suddenly be a renaissance in in-state recruiting, but to where goes one's question, I think that I think 24, we could see a higher concentration of state of Ohio kids just based on what is on the table. Because again, it's not a matter of drawing a number out there and saying we're going to take 14 kids from the state of Ohio, come hell or high water. There better be 14 kids to take if you're going to get there. In a lot of years, they're not.
Yeah, they, I think as of right now, have one commitment for 2024 from Ohio, Garrett Stover, who's an athlete prospect, a cousin of Cade Stover, I guess. And he's from Big Walnut, which is closer to central Ohio or just outside Columbus, as opposed to Cade Stover, who was from Lexington up closer to Mansfield, about halfway between here and Cleveland. Speaking of Cleveland, the number one player in the 24/7 database and number 27 overall nationally, number one in Ohio, is Bryce West, excuse me, cornerback from Cleveland Glenville. I'm fighting it. And Glenville, of course, is the school that sent about 20 guys to Ohio State from the early 2000s until the early 2010s or 20 teens there. And, Bryce could be the guy that reopens opens that back up in a big way. I think they did have a commitment from there this past year. But Jordan Marshall, running back from Cincinnati Moeller, Elias Rudolph, a defensive end from Taft, those down in Cincinnati, those seem to be the three top guys. Aaron Scott, a defensive back from Springfield. That's been a program that's won a ton of games and made the state championship game, and come out of Southwest Ohio, where people think about all those great Cincinnati schools like Coleraine, Moeller, even the Dayton schools like Wayne and Centerville and Elder and St. X and everything. Springfield has come out of that quadrant of the state and been in the state championship game now 2 years in a row. So Aaron Scott will be back there for his senior year, and he'll try and make it 3 years in a row. Those are the top four: Bryce West, Jordan Marshall, Elias Rudolph, Aaron Scott. To my knowledge, Ohio State's offered all four of them. And if they could get three of those four guys, I think that'd be a great backbone, I think, for this class. So sometimes you got to go back to your roots, I guess. And Ohio is definitely the backbone for Ohio State. We saw Ryan Day did it a little bit this past year. And some would even say maybe reached on a couple of guys from the great state of Ohio this past year in Jim Tressel form. So Maybe that's what it will take to help get this program over the hump and get them back on top in the Big Ten and win a national championship eventually. But maybe a few more Ohio guys to sprinkle in there. What Ohio really hasn't done for Ohio State is produce those difference-making, linemen perhaps on both sides of the ball. I guess the defensive tackles, a lot of them are from Ohio, and Jack Sawyer, defensive end, is from Ohio. But, that Ohio could do a little bit better perhaps up front on that side of the ball. And Ohio State did offer a couple of guys down the line here, at least according to the 24/7 list, with Devontae Armstrong and his brother Deontay Armstrong from Lakewood St. Edward. They're both in the 6'7", 280, 290 mold. And those two guys, Lakewood St. Ed's, has obviously been a state championship caliber program as well. So last couple of years. So interesting to see that Ohio State's kind of taking note of the teams that have been going deep in the playoffs and starting to recruit those guys pretty heavily as well.
And the fact that there's two guys in state that they like at running back enough to offer at this point, I think is a good sign as well. I think they signed 7 Ohioans in the 2023 class. I think maybe they can get to 8 or 9 if things go well, and maybe some guys also develop a little bit later on. So I think while we all agree that this is like a very deep class, surprised to look back and see how many Ohioans were in the last class. But I think they probably should top that one. I don't know if it'll be by more than 1 or 2 though.